I'm Dr. Anna Nolin, the Superintendent for the Natick Public Schools, and it is my honor to welcome you to the 2021 celebration of the life and work of the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. This yearly event always presents a time for us to reflect on the work of Dr. King, but also on how we as a community can mobilize and embody the greatest parts of his vision, turning his dream into reality through our actions. While every year has its challenges, and every year we as a school system and as a community affirm our commitment to King's dream and leadership, no year has tested our resolve or accelerated our progress like this one. The average citizen of all races has been forced to reckon with their personal journey on becoming an active anti-racist and what it means for self, family, neighborhood, community, state, and nation. However, it is with great pride that our town has demonstrated its leadership and active anti-racism as characterized by recent statements by both the school committee and the select board related to events in our nation's capital. The select board said it well and condemned all legal activity, as well as condemning the, quote, flagrant expressions of racist, anti-Semitic, and anti-LGBTQ speech that characterized the event. They go on to say they also, quote, affirm and reaffirm the commitment to the value of all people, and they call on the community of Natick and challenge themselves as a board to, quote, do better, and to remember that words matter and truth matters, and we call upon our community to remember that as Americans, far more unites us than divides us, end quote. While our town leaders set the tone and continue to advance King's dream, our students also advance the dream, as you will see here today. They too have demonstrated their reflection, progress, and leadership in working to help our community evolve and become increasingly less racist and exclusionary. Indeed, their art, dance, song, and writing paints a picture of a warm, embracing, inclusionary future. I am proud of this event. I am proud of our students, our leaders, and our town. We hope you enjoy and are uplifted by this special town event.
Good morning. I'm Manuel, one of the co-chairs of Natick is United. The 16th annual Martin Luther King Day celebration in Natick is a true community effort, and we'd like to thank our planning committee and event sponsors, including representatives from the Interfaith Clergy Association, Natick Public Schools, Natick MLK Program, Natick 180 and the Natick Health Department, Natick is United, and Spark Kindness. Thank you as well to the Walnut Hills School for the Arts. We hope you enjoy today's program with performances inspired by the life and legacy of Dr. King, and a keynote address by the Reverend Dr. Gregory Groover, pastor of the historic Charles Street AME Church in Roxbury. Immediately after our program, we invite you to join our first ever virtual community welcoming fair. Use the link on the screen below to visit our event page that lists all of the activities offered by our incredible community partners. Each participating partner has provided a link to a virtual space where you'll find many opportunities for connection, conversation, learning, and fun. Though we can't come together in person for a town-wide service project this year, you'll find there are still many ways to serve. Join Natick Service Council for a virtual food pantry tour and Q&A. Learn how you can donate non-perishable items at their mobile food pantry. Family Promise Metro West is working with community volunteer and Benham parent Tamara Johnson to offer a hands-on Houses for Change project for kids and caregivers. There are virtual activities for all ages, and all are welcome. Very special thanks to Randy Brewer, General Manager of Natick Pegasus, for the time, patience, and skill that went into producing this year's very special event. Thanks for tuning in. We look forward to seeing you at the virtual welcoming fair after the program.
This song is dedicated to
George Floyd,
Breonna Taylor,
Ahmaud Arbery,
Oluwatoyin Salau,
Malcolm Harsh,
Dominique Fells.
Rayshard Brooks.
David McAtee.
Robert Fuller.
Tony McDade.
Dejan Reed.
Raya Milton.
T.T. Gully.
Willie James McCoy.
Isaiah Lewis.
Dietrich Griffin.
Tatiana Jefferson.
Ryan Twyman.
Philando Castile.
Tamir Rice.
Trayvon Martin.
Sandra Bland.
Stephen Clark.
Alton Sterling.
Kirvan Fortain.
There are dogs in the yard, howling at the moon. There are sinners like me, our judgment's coming soon. And I stand at the bottom of this dark and lonely world, singing, please give me answers, so I might escape hell.
I watch from my window as they guard down an armed man, try to say it's not my problem, couldn't happen to my friends, but the truth is they're my brothers, they're my countrymen. If we lose our better angels, we won't get them back again. Come on and raise your voice above the raging seas. We can't hold our breath forever when our brothers cannot breathe. Come on and raise your voice above the raging seas. We can't hold our breath forever when our sisters cannot breathe. Oh, 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 oh. Our brothers cannot breathe. Oh, 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 oh. Our sisters cannot breathe. All good people, won't you come around? Won't you come around? Won't you come around? All good people, won't you come around? Won't you come around? Defend your brother. All good people, won't you come around? Won't you come around? Won't you come around? All good people, won't you come around? Won't you come around? Hold up each other. All good people, won't you come around? Won't you come around? Won't you come around? All good people, won't you come around? Won't you come around? Defend your brother. All good people, won't you come around? Won't you come around? Won't you come around? All good people, won't you come around? Won't you come around? Hold up each other.
So, once again, welcome to this Martin Luther King Day celebration. I am Adam Tierney-Eliot. I'm the pastor of the Eliot Church here in Natick, and I'm here representing one of the groups that was involved in this planning, namely the Natick Interfaith Clergy Association. So, this day, Martin Luther King Day, is a day that we set aside to think about race and racism in America. It's sort of a marker, a milestone, a hill even, where we can climb up and take a look at the landscape around us when it comes to race. And I think it's not a stretch to say that we haven't really been doing very well lately. We've seen the rise of white supremacy. We have seen a number of actions and activities, which no doubt other people will mention as well as this celebration goes on. And we know that we are in a difficult time and that this is an issue that needs to be addressed. So I thought we'd start by taking a moment in silence to be in this space. It's a little weird being online still. You know, we have a lot of distractions in our homes, in our kitchens, or living rooms, in our offices, wherever we're watching this. And we should take a moment now to breathe and to collect ourselves so that we can be part of this important event. So let's start that now. Let's take a moment to center ourselves and to think about race and racism in the United States, and to consider what sort of actions each of us can take to live into Martin Luther King's dream. Blessed be, and thank you for being here today.
My name is Nira and Mahesh, and I'm a board member of Spark Kindness. I'm really honored to join you for this year's event, and I'm so glad that you're all here. Our Natick MLK Day planning team has put together a really engaging program that I personally hope gives you time to reflect on the significance of today, allows you to learn some new information, inspires you to serve our community and Commonwealth in a positive way, and of course, celebrate the legacy of Dr. King. With that, it's my pleasure to introduce to you our elected officials and Natick town and community leaders. These guests will be reading passages from Dr. King's speech, Remaining Awake Through a Great Revolution, which was delivered at the National Cathedral in Washington, D.C., on March 31st, 1968. They'll also be reading extracts from the American Dream sermon, which was given on July 4th, 1965 at Ebenezer Baptist Church. May Dr. King's words affirm our community's commitment to racial justice in the year to come and beyond. Thank you.
One of the great liabilities of life is that all too many people find themselves living amid a great period of social change, and yet they fail to develop the new attitudes, the new mental responses that the new situation demands. They end up sleeping through a revolution. There can be no gainsaying of the fact that a great revolution is taking place in the world today.
Now more than ever before, America is challenged to realize its dream. For the shape of the world today does not permit our nation the luxury of an anemic democracy. And the price that America must pay for the continued oppression of the Negro and other minority groups is the price of its own destruction. For the hour is late and the clock of destiny is ticking out. We must act now before it's too late.
Through our scientific and technological genius, we have made of this world a neighborhood, and yet we have not had the ethical commitment to make of it a brotherhood. But somehow, and in some way, we have all got to do this. We must all learn to live together as brothers, or we will all perish together as fools. We are tied together in a single garment of destiny, caught in an inescapable network of mutuality, and whatever affects one directly affects all indirectly.
And so, it is marvelous and great that we do have a dream, that we have a nation with a dream, and to forever challenge us, to forever give us a sense of urgency, to forever stand in the midst of the isness of our terrible injustices, to remind us of the outness of our noble capacity for justice and love and brotherhood.
It's an unhappy truth that racism is a way of life for the vast majority of white Americans, spoken and unspoken, acknowledged and denied, subtle and sometimes not so subtle. The disease of racism permeates and poisons a whole body politic. I can see nothing more urgent than for America to work passionately and unrelentingly to get rid of the disease of racism.
This morning, I would like to deal with some of the challenges that we face today in our nation as a result of the American dream. First, I want to reiterate the fact that we are challenged more than ever before to respect the dignity and the worth of all human personality. We are challenged to really believe that all men, and may I say all people, are created equal.
Something positive must be done. Everyone must share in the guilt as individuals and as institutions. The government must certainly share the guilt. Individuals must share the guilt. Even the church must share the guilt. The hour has come for everybody, for all institutions of the public sector and the private sector, to work to get rid of racism.
Now there's another thing that we must never forget. If we're going to make the American dream a reality, we are challenged to work in an action program to get rid of the last vestiges of segregation and discrimination. This problem isn't going to solve itself, however much people tell us this.
Somewhere we must come to see that human progress never rolls in on the wheels of inevitability. It comes through the tireless efforts and the persistent work of dedicated individuals who are willing to be co-workers with God. And without this hard work, time itself becomes an ally of the primitive forces of social stagnation. So we must help time and realize that the time is always ripe to do right.
History is the long story of the fact that privileged groups seldom give up their privileges without strong resistance, and they seldom do it voluntarily. And so if the American dream is to be a reality, we must work to make it a reality and realize the urgency of the moment. And we must say now is the time to make real the promises of democracy. Now is the time to get rid of segregation and discrimination. We must live with that. And we must believe that.
On some positions, cowardice asks the question, is it expedient? And then experience comes along and asks the question, is it politic? Vanity asks the question, is it popular? Conscience asks the question, is it right? There comes a time when one must take the position that is neither safe, nor politic, nor popular, but he must do it because conscience tells him it is right.
And I would like to say to you this morning what I've tried to say all over this nation, what I believe firmly, that in seeking to make the dream a reality, we must use and adopt a proper method. I'm convinced than ever before that nonviolence is the way. I'm more convinced than ever before that violence is impractical as well as immoral.
We need not hate. We need not use violence. We can stand up before our most violent opponent and say, we will match your capacity to inflict suffering by our capacity to endure suffering. We will meet your physical force with soul force. Do to us what you will, and we will still love you.
Love is the way. Love is the only absolute. More and more I see this. I've seen too much hate to hate myself. Hate is too great a burden to bear.
we're going to win our freedom, because both the sacred heritage of our nation and the eternal will of the Almighty God are embodied in our echoing demands. And so, however dark it is, however deep the angry feelings are, and however violent explosions are, I can still sing, "We shall overcome." We shall overcome because the arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends towards justice.
I'm Rabbi Dan Lieben from Temple Israel of Natick, and I'd like to share with you a scriptural reading from the Hebrew Bible, Isaiah chapter 58, beginning in verse 6. Halo zetzom avcharehu, pater chatzubot resha, hater agudot mota, vashalach rutzutzim chofshim, v'chol mota tenateku. No, this is the fast that I desire, to unlock fetters of wickedness and untie the cords of the yoke, to let the oppressed go free, to break off every yoke. It is to share your bread with the hungry and to take the wretched poor into your home. When you see the naked, to clothe them, and do not ignore your own flesh. Then shall your light burst through like the dawn, and your healing spring up quickly. Your vindicator shall march before you. The presence of the Lord shall be your rear guard. Then when you call, Adonai will answer. When you cry, God will say, "Here I am." If you banish the yoke from your midst, the menacing hand and evil speech, and you offer your compassion to the hungry and satisfy the famished creature, then shall your light shine in goodness, and your gloom shall be like noonday. Adonai will guide you always, slaking your thirst in parched places, and give you strength to your bones. You shall be like a watered garden, like a spring whose waters do not fail.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. May the peace and blessings of God be upon all of you. Thank you so much for allowing the Islamic Center of Boston, Wayland, to participate in this Martin Luther King Day celebration. Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulihi wa ala alihi wa sahabihi ajma'een. We start in the name of God. The most beautiful names belong to God, and we send peace and salutations to his prophets, to his family, and to all the believers until the day of judgment. 1400 years ago, a man, a shepherd, sitting atop the mountain of Arafat said that all mankind is from Adam and Eve. An Arab has no superiority over a non-Arab, and a non-Arab has no superiority over an Arab. A white person has no superiority over a black person, nor a black person has any superiority over a white person, except by their piety and good action. This was the Khutbatul Wida, or the last sermon of Prophet Muhammad, may the peace and blessings be upon him. It is lamentable indeed, and I would like today perhaps to first admonish my own brothers and sisters, the Muslims of this world, that 1,400 years later, we have not made further progress on this very simple premise that we are all created equal. Almost 60 years ago today, the man who we are commemorating then reminded us that he had had a dream. "I have a dream," he said, "that my 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they will be judged not by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character." Echoing almost the words of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam 1400 years prior. It should not have taken the lives of George Floyd or all the other blessed lives that have been lost in the pursuit of justice and equality. We pray to the Almighty Lord to help us people and as a generation rise to this moment and fulfill what Prophet Muhammad taught us and what Martin Luther King Jr. then reminded us, that we are all brothers and sisters and the equal creation of God. We ask him to make us righteous and give us the courage to stand for what is right and to never waver from it. When faced with great adversity, the 11 sleepers of Ephesus prayed a very beautiful and profound prayer that is apt for us now. رَبَّنَا آتِنَا مِن لَدُنْكَ رَحْمَةً وَهَيِّئْ لَنَا مِنْ أَمْرِنَا رَشَدًا. O Lord, pour your mercy upon us and guide us to the best in our affairs, the best judgment in all that we do, in all of the affairs that we undertake. We ask the good Lord to help us in the pursuit of justice and equality, and to protect us and our parents and our children in this time. Ameen ya Rabbil Alameen, wa akhri dawana anil hamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen.
We the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, to ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America. When the last child cries for a crust of bread, when the last person dies for just words they said, when we shelter over the poorest heads, then we shall be free. When the last thing we notice is the color of skin, and the first thing we look for is the beauty within, when the skies and the oceans are clean again, then we shall be free. We shall be free. We shall be free. Stand straight, walk proud, 'cause we shall be free. When we're free to love anyone we choose, when this world's big enough for all different views, when we all can worship from our own kind of pew, then we shall be free. We shall be free. We shall be free. Stand straight, walk proud, 'cause we shall be free. And when money talks for the very last time, and nobody wants to step behind, and there's only one race, and that's humankind, then we shall be free. We shall be free. We shall be free. Stand straight, walk proud, 'cause we shall be free. We shall be free. We shall be free. Stand straight, walk proud, 'cause we shall be free. We shall be free. We shall be free. Stand straight, walk proud, 'cause we shall be free.
Peer Advocates is a group at Natick High School that has been striving towards social justice in our school community Although virtually, we are excited to be here for our 4th year, and this year we created a video of collages.
We asked what motivates you in our social justice work, and each member of the club, our 2 advisors, created a visual representation of a quotation or phrase that moves us, inspires us, or gives us hope. We hope you enjoy our presentation. Thank you.
You're broken down and tired of living life on the merry-go-round.
Inclusion matters at your dinner table.
But I see it in you, so we gon' walk it out.
Change will not come if we wait for some other person or some other time. We are the ones we've been waiting for. We are the change that we seek.
Be the change you want to see in the world. Mahatma Gandhi.
You are not judged by the height you have risen, but from the depth you have climbed.
How wonderful it is that nobody needs to wait a single moment before starting to improve the world. Anne Frank.
He who passively accepts evil is as much involved in it as he who helps perpetrate it. Martin Luther King Jr.
You cannot shake hands with a closed fist. Indira Gandhi.
History has shown us that courage is contagious and hope can take on a life of its own. Michelle Obama.
Prejudice is a burden that confuses the past, threatens the future, and renders the present inaccessible. Maya Angelou.
How can one not speak about war, poverty, and inequality when people who suffer from these afflictions don't have a voice to speak? Isabel Allende.
Freedom is never voluntarily given by the oppressor. It must be demanded by the oppressed. Martin Luther King Jr.
It's up to all of us, black, white, everyone, no matter how well-meaning we think we might be, to do the honest, uncomfortable work of rooting it out. Michelle Obama.
Justice denied anywhere diminishes justice everywhere.
There is no noise as powerful as the sound of the marching feet of determined people. Martin Luther King.
Diversity is being invited to the party. Inclusion is being asked to dance. Verna Myers.
We will never have true civilization until we have learned to recognize the rights of others.
Be the change you wish to see in the world. Mahatma Gandhi.
Freedom and justice cannot be parceled out in pieces to suit political convenience. I don't believe you can stand for freedom for one group of people and deny it to others. Coretta Scott King.
Power concedes nothing without a demand. It never did, and it never will. Where justice is denied, where poverty is enforced, where ignorance prevails, and where any one class is made to feel that society is an organized conspiracy to oppress, rob, and degrade them, neither persons nor property will be safe. Frederick Douglass.
Equity in education now. Equity in education is culturally responsive, it is anti-racist and truth to power. Equity in education is inclusive curriculum, it is student-centered and student-empowering. Equity in education is excellence and achievement for all.
We've now come to the part of the program where I have the privilege of announcing the winners for our creative writing contest, or our creation contest. The young people you're about to hear from represent passion, leadership, and creativity. Each year, this event sponsors a writing contest asking students to write on themes or create on themes related to Dr. King's speeches, ideas, and work. This year, I'm happy to report for the first time, a winner also includes an artistic rendering. Fine art of this type is also a powerful representation of King's themes as well. It is my pleasure to announce the following 3 contest winners who will each receive a prize for $100 for their submission. The 3 winners are Allison Uzel, a 7th grader at the Wilson Middle School, Jane Brunel, 7th grader at Kennedy Middle School, and Mackenzie McDonald, Jr. at Natick High School. And Mackenzie actually submitted the art piece. You'll now hear from Allison and Jane as they read their essays, and Mackenzie will show her art rendering.
Hi, I'm Allison Uzel in 7th grade from Wilson Middle School, and this is my poem about social justice. Freedom plus equality plus harmony. Social justice, having empathy for others, building alliances and allies, accepting others for who they are, becoming the best version of ourselves. Social justice, trusting our instincts, pushing aside differences, standing up for what's right, staying strong during hard times, facing every challenge that comes our way. Social justice, making a community, uniting to work together, believing in each other and ourselves. Alone we are weak, when we stick together we are unstoppable. Social justice, we are all equal, no matter what we identify, being understanding of others.
Hi, I'm Jane Brunel. I go to Kennedy Middle School. I'm in grade 7, and I am on Team Curiosity. This is my poem for the Martin Luther King celebration of 2021. Martin Luther King Jr. once said, "A threat to justice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. The broken link in the chain makes the whole chain weaker." Just like how a community of people can be broken by one action, one person, one day. Unfortunately, this is how the world works, one step at a time, till there's nothing but unjust society. Justice is not a right, it's a privilege that so many people have. No matter who you are, you should have the privilege of justice. But each day we find ourselves waking up to a world where millions of people are being judged based on their skin color, sexual orientation, gender, religion, ethnicity. The list goes on. That judgment, that hatred, sheds no light on the beautiful people that share this divine earth we live on. This judgment enrages the monsters inside of us. If and when we let our monsters and hate go into the world, the chain of the human race gets shattered, torn from the loathing we hold. Love can only mend these links. These links bring us together. These links bring us new hope, new joy, new triumphs, new light.
A threat to justice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. When we silence the voices of the oppressed, we deny ourselves the ability to grow, learn, apologize, and reflect on the injustices and history of our past. It's only when we accept our role in the suppression of Black voices in America and provide a platform where they can be heard and we can begin to move forward.
Good morning. I have the privilege of getting to introduce our speaker today. The Reverend Dr. Gregory Groover will be our speaker, and he's the pastor of the historic Charles Street AME Church in Roxbury, Massachusetts, and he's been there since 1984. He's truly a gifted speaker, and he calls us to a higher place in the words that he brings. And yet, he also knows that words alone just don't cut it. In the world that we live in today, it's as important what we say as to what we do, as the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King proved so long ago in the commitments that he made to live in the world, not just by his words, by what he did. And Dr. Groover has backed up his words with actions. During his time with the church, he's increased participation of the congregation, the diversity and the accountability to the church membership. In addition, he established new ministries, fellowship clusters, and professionally related alliances aimed at building up congregational life in maximizing avenues in which members could share and cultivate their skills, talents, and gifts. But not just involved with his church, but involved in the greater Boston community, because Greg sees that that is as important as anything else. And he's acted as chairman of the Education Committee of the Black Ministers Alliance, the BMA. He was instrumental in bringing together public school officials, teachers, community leaders, parents, and clergy in the planning and the development of the BMA after-school program, a $1.5 million initiative. Under his leadership, the BMA has sponsored numerous church-based community education summits on the MCAS exams, on school promotion and attendance policies, and other important issues. Reverend Groover drafted and proposed his 10 action steps towards becoming an education-conscious congregation, which was unanimously adopted by the BMA. He served as the BMA president from 2010 to 2014, but that's not where he stopped. He kept going. Reverend Groover has served on the board of directors for several nonprofit organizations and institutions of higher education, including the Boston 10 Points Coalition, Massachusetts Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Children, the YMCA of Greater Boston, the Center for Collaborative Education, and the Boston Plan for Excellence, and on the Gordon College and Andover Newton Theological Seminary boards. I will have to end here, though there is much more to be said about what Dr. Groover has done, because we need to turn the screen over to him. So let me now say I am overjoyed to have him speak here today with us on this ever so important MLK Day. Thank you.
Thank you, Eric, for those very kind words. I deeply appreciate. I'm very humbled by them. Even more so, I'm humbled by our 30-plus year friendship. It dates back to the days when you and your sister Ingrid and I were classmates at Union Theological Seminary in New York in the mid-1980s. I appreciate you. I deeply value and treasure, not only our friendship, but your ministry. And I want to congratulate you and your wife as you relocate to the Wilmington area in Delaware. Wilmington is losing one prominent resident who will be relocating to 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue in Washington, D.C. in just a few days. And as they lose one prominent resident, they will now welcome two distinguished new and prominent residents. Again, thank you. I also want to thank the Natick Interfaith Clergy Association for welcoming me with you, to be with you as you celebrate this Martin Luther King celebration. It is indeed an honor to be here with you and the Natick community. And as I said, it is truly a joy and an honor beyond words to celebrate the lingering legacy, the unfulfilled dream, and the continual work of the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. with you today. We are neighbors in this greater Boston area. Our close geographical proximity and our common stride towards true justice, inclusion, and equity would name us belonging, as Dr. King would characterize, to the one beloved community. My high hope as your neighbor is that we will, in the coming days, truly find ways along the Mass Pike and Route 9 to more consistently connect with one another, discover more of each other, to know each other's names, to feel each other's pains, and celebrate each other's deeds of bettering Greater Boston and beyond towards a truer and more just community. The truth is that whether we are urbanites or suburbanites of Greater Boston, we are not exclusive and separate islands unto ourselves, but we share boundaries. We share roads. We share needs. And one of the main needs is our need for each other. No one says it better than the contemporary gospel artist Hezekiah Walker, who penned and recorded these words that really has become a 21st century hymn sang in virtually every black church. The lyrics are, I need you, you need me. We're all part of God's body. Stand with me, agree with me, that we're all part of God's body. It is God's will that every need be supplied. You are important to me. I need you to survive. In our mutual need for each other, we must learn more about each other. So let me begin. I've been blessed to enjoy a nearly 27-year pastorate of the historic Charles Street African Methodist Episcopal Church in the Boston neighborhood of Roxbury. My church is 202 years old, which in Boston standard makes us just about approaching only middle age. In the 19th century, our church was located on Beacon Hill, which is where most of Boston's blacks resided in those days. Our church served in the years leading to the Civil War as a major center of Boston's anti-slavery movement, as we hosted in our pulpit such prominent abolitionists as Frederick Douglass, Sojourner Truth, William Lloyd Garrison, and David Walker, who was a member of our church. Throughout its history, Charles Street has led in many of the local desegregation efforts, not only in our public schools, but in some of our city's higher ed institutions, hospitals, and even in our nation's oldest police department. Today, we actively participate in the fight of improving our public school system and making sure that our children have greater access to high quality and higher performing schools. In addition, we operate several projects, including the Hamilton Garrett Music and Arts Academy, a 501c3 nonprofit community program that teaches children and adults to not only preserve African American music and music of the African diaspora, but to become their own producers and creators of freedom and justice-oriented music. As I join you today in celebrating Dr. King, I painfully join you in also recognizing that two of Dr. King's public pleas have yet to be answered. One of them, of course, was his dream, shared to the nation, approaching some almost 58 years ago. He had a dream that has yet to be fulfilled. Some of it has been materialized. More and more of black girls and black boys have gone on to college, have graduated, have earned their professional and graduate and even doctoral degrees. And black women and black men across all professional fields are being more regarded by the content of their character rather than the color of their skin. As children of former slaves, we now not only participate in the democracy by voting, even though there are constant measures to suppress it, but we can participate by now occupying the seat in the Oval Office, in the person of Barack Obama, the position of the vice presidency, in the person of Kamala Harris, and even the U.S. senatorial seat that was once held by one of the staunchest arch segregationists and civil rights opponents, Senator Richard Russell, to now being newly occupied by the Reverend Dr. Raphael Warner, the pastor of America's Freedom Church, Ebenezer Baptist Church in Atlanta, Georgia, the same church once led by Dr. King only 3 pastorates ago. Still, much of his dream spoken in 1963 is yet only a dream far from reaching reality. But the other public plea of Dr. King that has never been answered, what was not a prophetic call shouted out before the hundreds of thousands in the open air at the Lincoln Memorial, but it was a plea written in the form of a handwritten letter, penned by Dr. King in a lonely, dark, and isolated Birmingham jail. Yes, a letter that did not come into being on any laptops or typewriters of that day, but a letter that was composed by an ink pen, smuggled in by his lawyers, and a letter written on scraps of toilet papers and on the margins of a local newspaper, the only supply of paper that Dr. King had within his reach while sitting in that dark prison cell. His letter from the Birmingham jail, a letter that many believe, including myself, that had the biblical canon not been closed until the 20th century, this letter, written by Dr. King, would have found its way into the Holy Writ, just as the several letters of Paul were included. His letter from the Birmingham jail, written to 8 Christian and Jewish clergy persons, all men, all white, religious leaders who at the time were regarded as moderate and even sympathizers of the civil rights movement, but who nevertheless opposed Dr. King and his followers protesting in their city of Birmingham. 8 white religious leaders who argued against the demonstrations taking place in their home city of Birmingham, who insisted that King and his followers ought to be more patient and allow the judiciously slow courts to resolve the battles rather than taking it to the streets, who urged Dr. King and the other civil rights participants that they ought to patiently wait for change to eventually come, rather than demand immediate change in their city and the country. King wrote to these 8 clergy leaders across faith divides. He wrote it in his letter from the Birmingham jail, a letter to which these 8 clergy leaders never responded. The question today is, has America responded? Has this country ever answered King's letter from the Birmingham jail? I suggest today that we are only beginning to answer his letter. And we have yet a long way to go before we can complete our response, put it in the mail of time, and send it back to its rightful addressee, Dr. King, who now lives in the heavens. But the good news is that in some ways, we are slowly beginning to answer his letter. One of the criticisms emanating from this group of 8 white clergy persons was that King's protest actions in Birmingham was being agitated and stirred by outsiders like King coming into their city. That the presence and the demonstrations being held in their beloved Birmingham, led by these outsiders, were not helping the city's black people quest for civil rights, that they were only hurting them. That if there were any injustices occurring in Birmingham, then that was Birmingham's business, Birmingham's burdens, and Birmingham's bid to overcome it in Birmingham's own time and in Birmingham's own way. And Dr. King replied to these "let Birmingham take care of Birmingham's problems" assertion from these Birmingham white clergy persons. He made it known to them that Birmingham's injustice did not just belong to Birmingham. King wrote, "I am cognizant of the interrelatedness of all communities and states. I cannot sit idly in Atlanta and not be concerned about what happens in Birmingham. Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. We are caught in an inescapable network of mutuality, tied in a single garment of destiny. What affects one directly affects all indirectly." While we do see today instances of many white Americans that have increasingly taken on a tribal mentality through groups such as MAGA, Proud Boys, K&I, Oath Keepers, and the Red Elephants, partly due to the MAGA movement. Groups feeding and increased xenophobia and the demonizing of the other. Groups that have found their legitimacy in the demagoguery and the divisive language of Trump and others who appeal to the white fear of Latinos crossing over the borders to take away their jobs. The fear of Muslims moving into the country to bomb their buildings. And the fear of African Americans moving out of the inner cities and into their white suburbs to bring down their property values and their privileged way of life. Yes, while we see all these unfortunate racist phenomena taking place in 2021, we do, however, see some positive signs of many millions in America caring about the injustices of some. And they're saying today, this injustice inflicted on some is wrong. And I've got to do my part to make it right. That's what this whole Black Lives Matter demonstrations held last summer was all about. It was not just black folks who had been declaring it mostly on their own since 2014. But it was now white folks, white people in the millions from all over America proclaiming loudly that it's not enough to comfortably say all lives matter. But we have to demand that Black lives matter in this world. Because until Black lives truly matter, all lives won't matter. So in every major city of this country, and in the world, and in thousands of predominantly white suburban towns, white people were holding protests and rallies in the middle of a pandemic and putting up signs in their house yards and on the lawns of their houses of worship saying, "Black Lives Matter," telling their predominantly white neighbors that injustices toward African Americans and against all people of color are a threat to our very own justice. And we will never be free until all are free. Such is an example of our nation beginning to answer Dr. King's letter. But we must continue in responding by our speaking truth to power. Not just partial truth, not just segmented truth, not just politicized truth to our own political basis, not just truth that's not offensive and doesn't hurt, but full truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. The 8 white clergymen of Birmingham, with their good hearts, conveniently criticized the demonstrators against injustice. But they also conveniently failed to criticize the oppressive white political leaders and institutions that created the reasons for these demonstrators to protest. It's somewhat similar, and I want to preface it by I'm making this comparison very gently and carefully because in many ways there's a huge difference between these two protesting groups. But still, in principle, it's somewhat similar to some politicians today who are conveniently criticizing the mob rioters who unlawfully breached the U.S. Capitol. Yes, they say, let's arrest them as we should. Let's hold the rioters accountable, which we should. But let's not hold accountable the president and others who incited them to go to the Capitol and riot. Let's not hold accountable the many enablers of this president who sat silent for 4 years and permitted him, if not encouraged him, to continue lying and creating this alternative reality. An alternative reality full of many lies, going back even to his statement of birtherism, that ultimately drove these rioters to breach and vandalize the U.S. Capitol and to take the lives of 5 innocent people. Holding the powerful that created the unjust conditions just as accountable represents our response to King's letter. And there are many other actions of justice that we must still fight and take on if we are ever to fully reply to his letter. A letter written 58 years ago that is long deserving of an answer. So let us, in this season of America, let us become the first responders to this letter and begin and continue on the long road of at last fully replying to this letter written by a 20th century apostle of freedom and ultimately answered, yes, better late than never, but ultimately answered by a 21st century American that truly believes that we will overcome someday. Thank you, and God bless you on this Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Day. Let's keep this dream alive and let us at last move toward responding to his letter from the Birmingham jail.
A wise mentor once told me that one of the most important things that a member of the clergy can do is to help people part with their money. I might put it a different way, that one of the most important things that we can do is help to align people's money with their values. And so that's what I'm here to do today. I'm Rebecca Beret, pastor of Christ Lutheran Church here in Natick. The events of the last weeks have made it abundantly clear how much work there is to be done to give life to Dr. King's vision of the beloved community, and how critical and urgent that work has become. While Dr. King is best remembered and most honored for his work in combating racism, he was equally passionate about the need for economic justice. In his own words, "The contemporary tendency in our society is to base our distribution on scarcity, which has vanished, and to compress our abundance into the overfed mouths of the middle and upper classes until they gag with superfluity. If democracy is to have breadth of meaning, it is necessary to adjust this inequity. It is not only moral, but it is also intelligent." The COVID-19 pandemic has both laid bare and exacerbated wealth inequities among white people and people of color, with Black and Latinx communities suffering disproportionately due to long-standing inequalities. If you are among those who have been hard hit by the pandemic, lost a job, or significantly lost income, maybe you ought to hang on to what you've got. But if you are among those who have done just fine, if you've kept your job, maybe even gotten a raise, If you aren't sure that you really need a second stimulus check, then I urge you now to dig deep and give generously to support today's program. Your offerings will both underwrite the costs of the program, the honorarium for our fine speaker, and gifts to our high school essayists, and it will also support the work of the Natick Service Council here in our community, serving our neighbors, advancing the cause of the beloved community that Dr. King envisioned. You may give by visiting firstchurchnatick.org/give-online and clicking the donate button and entering the amount you'd like to contribute in the Martin Luther King Day offering giving line under special gifts. Again, that's firstchurchnatick.org/give-online, and I'm sure you can find the rest of it from there. Thank you in advance for your generosity.
Some days we forget to look around us.
Some days we can't see the joy that surrounds us.
So caught up inside ourselves, we take when we should give.
So for tonight we pray for what we know can be. And on this day we hope for what we still can't see.
It's up to us to be the change.
And even though we all can still do more,
There's so much to be thankful for.
look beyond ourselves. There's so much sorrow.
It's way too late to say I'll cry tomorrow.
Each of us must find our truth. It's so long overdue.
So for tonight we pray for what we know can be.
And every day we hope for what we still can't see.
It's up to us to reach the change.
And even though this world needs so much more,
There's so much to be thankful for.
even with our differences, there is a place we're all connected. Each of us can find each other's light.
This is Ian Meverak, the minister and director of the Common Street Spiritual Center in Natick, and I want to send you forth in the spirit of love and interconnection that Martin Luther King Jr. taught. As a nation, we're in a time of turmoil, and one thing I believe is that a fear-based politics and a hate-based politics will not deliver us from the crisis we're in. Only love, as King taught, has the power to overcome hatred. Only truth has the power to overcome falsehood. So go forth in that spirit of love, standing in the truth. And in that way, may we be peacemakers, may we be healers, may we be bringers of hope. Amen.